Okay, we are back at it today, and I am very excited because you may notice right here next to me, we have a lovely new little friend. We have a tripod. So, my hair is a mess. Wow, I apologize. We have a tripod, and it's so exciting because now, instead of looking over my right shoulder over here and looking at the canvas and where we're working, you're going to be able to look over my left shoulder. And that means that my arm won't be getting in your way, which is amazing. Super happy about that. But we are going to do a micro painting today, and the plan is to work on our under the sea painting, which I am so excited about. Honestly, kind of in a good mood today. So we'll see where that takes us. Sometimes these good moods are incredible, fantastic, amazing, and I end up like singing and dancing along as we paint in here, and sometimes they don't last very long. So we'll see what today brings. We shall see, we shall see. Really quickly, I need to update the number that we are on. I always forget to do this. We're on micro painting number 21, which is incredible because that means that we have now done 3 weeks worth of this as of today. I know that it hasn't necessarily been every single day, but, you know, progress is progress. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep doing the thing. So I'm going to switch you over to the tripod now, and you're going to get to see your new view. Alrighty. So since we are starting off with our micro painting, I might try to get you a little bit closer in here. Get you to see some detail happening. That seems good to me. I don't think I can actually get you any closer than that. So that might be as best as it's gonna get. First things first, little spritz as always. And we need to grab paint. And I'm going to start off with, let's see, what color do we want today? I'm just going to pick a color kind of at random, and we're going to go with it. Let's see. Oh, that's a tiny one. It's Brilliant Yellow in itty bitty form. I suppose it would help if I held it right side up. It's Brilliant Yellow in itty bitty form, so we're going to start with Brilliant Yellow, and we're going to play from there. I do have a couple of these itty bitty tubes from when I first got into painting, and I suppose I should probably use them up first. Or I could not. So we're going to do Brilliant Yellow, we're going to do white, and we're going to grab some of our cadmium orange hue. So, I got a nice little drip drop blop on my thumb. I'm going to actually put that on the paper instead of just wiping it off. So we've got yellow, we've got orange. What else goes good with this? Let's grab red. We're going to grab our flag red from Apple Barrel. Apple Barrel is one of our cheaper paints. It's going to run more than the others. And we're going to grab our favorite brush. I also have been really bad about rinsing my brushes this week just because there's been a lot going on. A lot going on in the Shelby Lynn land. So, wipe down that water to get it kind of incorporated a little bit. And then since we grabbed yellow as our random color of pick, oh, Trump, please stop texting me. We're gonna kind of just start swirling that in, and we're gonna see what happens. That's a little loose. Didn't we have this problem yesterday? It being a little bit loose. And we'll grab some orange. Yesterday we painted the sun, and that was fun. And we'll grab some red. And we're just doing little loop-de-doops. I absolutely love that you're able to see everything better now. And we'll go back in with some more yellow. We're going to kind of load up the brush a bit more so that we're getting these whoopie-dip. Yep, that's a thing. That is now a technical painting term. Whoopie-dip-dip. And we'll do the same with the other colors too, so that we're getting little streaks of it. I don't know where this is going. that's fine. We don't have to always know the destination when we start the journey. Oh, I like that. Inspirational sayings coming at you from this live stream. Again, just kind of letting stuff happen. I'm going to wipe it off, and then I'm going to come back in with the yellow. And really, like, we probably should have saved yellow for last regardless, because this yellow is the lightest color, other than white, because we have some white on our palette. And so with it being the lightest color, sometimes it gets overwhelmed easily, which, you know what? I get it. I get you, yellow, and I'm going to help you show up. Okay, so we've got these little like petally floofs happening. It's kind of how my brain is interpreting them, as like flower petal floofs. So, what do I see in this painting? I don't know. If anybody's on here, do you see anything in this painting? Like, is there anything here that like calls to you or whatever? If there is anyone here, also feel free to let me know what you think of the new setup, because I feel like we might need to play with it a little bit to get you the best view of the painting situation, but that is absolutely something that we can do. We have more freedom to play with it now. Also, before I forget again, if you look right down here, you can see my Instagram at painting_on_wheels. If you do not already follow me on Instagram, that is where I usually post the live streams first. So I post every time that I'm about to go live, like literally usually less than 2 minutes before I start. Unless it's one of those days where I'm like actually planning out my day, which rarely happens. But so absolutely you should be following me on Instagram, because that is where you will get notified first. You can also, of course, turn on notifications for Twitch. If you are following me, you will get notified when we go live. And that's great for you. You can also see down there, the thing on the bottom is my Etsy store. It's Painting by Shelby Lynn. There are only 3 paintings on the Etsy store right now, which is fine. It's a work in progress. That being said, if you see something that you like, you can absolutely reach out to me about buying it. It doesn't matter if it's on the Etsy store or not. If you see something on my Instagram and you're like, oh, hey, I really love that and I want it for my wall, reach out to me. Our micro paintings are not available for purchase. However, and this is what I say every single time, however, if you want one, I would gladly do a commission of any of our micro paintings. I love our micro paintings. They are so fun. They're great to do because usually we're working on them for like less than an hour. But I would gladly do a bigger size of them for you. So if you see a micro painting that you like our little friend the fox, who is probably my favorite micro painting still, send me a message on Instagram. Slide into those DMs, please. And we can make that happen. I don't think I have ever in my life before encouraged someone or anyone to slide into my DMs. So this is a new thing. I'm in an interesting mood today, and you're gonna hopefully enjoy it. So all that I'm doing here right now is I'm kind of just outlining kind of just like a shape of petals with some white paint, giving some of these petals a little bit more definition. And I don't know where we'll go from there. I'm along for the ride just like you are. The important thing with art is to have fun. If you're not having fun, why are you making art? So, if you are painting along today, as you know, as we talk about every single time, I share the supplies that I use with you, not because I am sponsored by anyone or anything, which would be amazing. If Michaels, if you are listening to this, please sponsor me. But because I want painting to be accessible to you. That means that if you are not able to afford Artist Loft paint, which I absolutely understand more than you might realize, then you can always go to your local Walmart and look at the paints in their crafting section. And they usually have paints for less than $1. And so if you are like, oh, well, Shelby Lynn uses cadmium orange hue, you can pull up what the cadmium orange hue looks like on the Michaels website, because that's where I get my paints from. And you can see, oh, this is what this looks like on its own. So I'm going to find a paint that kind of color matches that. So that when she says, oh, I'm using cadmium orange hue, you can be like, oh, that's my blank. That was a very long-winded explanation. I hope you don't mind. We are rolling with the mood today. And I hope you are enjoying your new point of view. So these oranges are a little bit hard to define simply because, like, the red mixes with the yellow to make orange a little bit. And so we're kind of just rolling with it in some spots. And that's a good shape right there. But I'm kind of just defining the shapes that I see on the page. On our teeny tiny piece of scrap paper. And yes, we are painting just on paper. This is just plain paper. If you want to do a paint along with me, you are welcome to use whatever paper you have available. I ripped pages from just a basic sketch notebook, and then I used my paper cutter that I have from when I was teaching to just kind of chop it up into reasonably straight pieces. And that's all I did. Okay, I have no idea what this is, but I like it. I like it. 15-minute micro painting. This is part of the joy of doing micro paintings, is that really, I just knocked my paintbrush down, so I have to move to get it, and I might end up bumping you. Also, little piece of advice. If you are painting and you are a klutz like me, because I am definitely a klutz, I highly recommend using something as like a drop cloth to catch anything that falls. So for me, I use an old flat sheet. And my old flat sheet just goes under my painting space so that anything that I drop, any paint that falls, etc., and so forth, can land on that, and it's not a big deal. We are adjusting here a little bit because I want you to have the best view possible to get all of this in here. Okay, that seems to be pretty good. So we are switching over to our Under the Sea painting. And oh my gosh, y'all, I have been so excited for this thing because This Under the Sea painting is going to be amazing. I am convinced of it. I hope you are convinced with me. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to look up a reference image of a boat from underneath and hopefully we find something. Boat from underwater. That works. No, not what I was looking for. I'm going to show you. This pulled up underwater boats as like submarines and also that shark boat. Like what the heck? Okay. Let's see if images will yield me anything better. It did. Okay, cool. So it got me this. And so we're going to kind of use this as almost like a base to kind of work around. That being said, I want my boat to be going up the canvas. So we're going to adjust it a little bit as we go. So what we need blues. Of course we need blues. We are using our phthalo blue, which phthalo blue is kind of my base blue. You might notice I use a lot of phthalo blue. We are also going to pull out our cerulean blue, as we talked about previously when we were working on building our waves in our ocean and all of our blobs and twirly whirlies. You can, instead of using cerulean blue, you can use the phthalo blue and mix it with some white. That is a perfectly acceptable adaptation if you are on a budget. Which please, if you enjoy this and you want to paint along, do things in your budget. You know, use that printer paper, use notebook paper. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Do it however works for you. And that is the thing that is important here. And that is the thing that we will come back to over and over and over and over and over again. So in order to make this boat happen, what I'm going to do, and I want my boat to be kind of off from this like lightest patch here, because this lightest patch here is kind of where our sun is meant to be. So if you were to be above the surface, we would probably have our sun like whoop right there. That being said, I want my boat slightly off from it. So what I'm going to do is I need some black. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some kind of dark gray. I don't want it to be like super, super, super dark. We've worked with some super dark grays before. But I want it to be a little bit darker than my neutral gray is. Did I say we grabbed neutral gray? We grabbed neutral gray. So what I'm going to do is I am going to separate out some of my neutral gray. And our neutral gray is very neutral. And then using my teeny tiny brush, I'm just going to do like one plop into the black at a time. And mix it and see where we're at. Assess where we're at and what we're doing. And then do more if I feel like we need more. So we're on block number 2. This isn't quite dark enough yet. We're going to go for block number 3. And it's not quite dark enough yet, so we're going to go for block number 4. And I'm really just kind of dipping my brush into that black paint to get the smallest amount that I can so that I don't end up going too dark with this. Because while this is just going to be kind of our base and we're going to go over it, I don't want it to be so dark that I feel like I can't go over it. Block number 5? We went backwards somehow. And really quickly, I'm going to open the blinds behind me to get some more natural light in here so we can all see a bit better. Because the sun is now behind the trees. Alright. I am now happy with our black gray color. I'm going to show you on my hand what this looks like. Just a little bloop bloop. So that is our darker gray. The neutral gray, for reference, is, take out the streaks, but it's that color. So we went down a couple of shades worth of gray. And I'm going to wipe that off on my paint rag. My hand is now mostly ungrayed. Okay, so now we want to kind of outline the boat. I keep looking over at my computer for my reference image, and my reference image is on my phone. Love that for me. That's okay though. I don't even know why I keep looking over there. Like my reference image has never been on the computer in the whole time I've been doing this. So to be honest, when I put my hand up here to kind of show where I wanted this to go, I realized that my hand size is pretty great size for this. So with that being said, this is a 16 by 16 canvas. I'm going to kind of play with using my hand to see where I want this to be. I kind of like it being almost like going off the canvas. You can bring it down, you can bring it over, you can put it wherever you want to if you're doing a paint along. I think I'm going to have mine go off the canvas. So I like this approximate size. I think I'm going to have it going almost off the canvas. So I'm going to do a little bit mark under my middle finger and then a little mark under about where the base of my heel, the heel of my hand is. Okay. Now, the boat that we're using as like a reference image is kind of just like a triangle shape. And I'm looking through the other images that are kind of similar, recommended by Google. You may also like this kind of thing. And most of them are seeming to be fairly triangle shaped. Rounded triangle, of course, but fairly triangle shaped. So we want that top part to be kind of a point. And really quickly, I'm going to use one of my very long brushes, and I'm just going to kind of connect, using that as a guide to get a fairly straight line. Because this way I can kind of visualize a little bit better where it goes on each side of it. So if I go out X amount on one side, I want to make sure I'm going out the same amount on the other. And so we are going to, let's start with just kind of going about 3 fingers out. Give it a little mark. And then we want to get that as straight as we can. And then we'll end up filling all that in. But then 3 fingers on the other side. I went to about there and fill that line. Make that line happen. Not what I meant to do. Give it a little rub. So, I'm going to kind of round out, giving it that corner. And I'm going to kind of just almost like sketch in with my paintbrush where I want this to go. Oh, that was not a sketch in. So my paintbrush doesn't have a ton of paint on it. I'm just kind of lightly brushing in kind of a general shape of boatiness. So I want to kind of round out, and then we're rounding up towards that point. And we're going to go ahead and define this point really quickly. Okay. Are we happy with that shape? Don't know yet. I'm going to kind of go ahead and fill out this shape. Have some paint higher up on my paintbrush. So I just like smacked it against the canvas and rolled it out. But we're still using that slightly darker gray color. It doesn't look quite as dark on the canvas just because of the other colors around it, but it is that same darker gray color. And this is where usually my arm would be like entirely blocking your view. Congratulations. You get to actually see everything I'm doing. Now that being said, I am ambidextrous. I can technically paint with my left hand. However, for me, as a person with a disability, painting is part of how I try to make sure that my hand abilities are staying fairly matched up. Because, like, I use my left hand for a lot of things, like chopping vegetables and that sort of stuff in my real life. And so by consistently painting almost exclusively with my right or exclusively with my right, it means that my right is getting in the same kind of practice as my left. So if you have a disability and you struggle with fine motor control, I highly recommend trying painting. I feel like this is going to end up being too triangular, and we're going to need to adjust the overall shape a little bit. To be honest, I've never looked at a boat from under the water before. So like when I came up with this idea of being like, yeah, we're under the water, we're going to look up at a boat, that kind of thing, it was a little bit of a struggle to like try to imagine what a boat under the water would look like. Because I've just never swam underneath a boat before. Also, as you may recall, a couple weeks ago, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, it was kind of when we first started doing this, I had talked about how I have aphantasia. And what that means is that when I close my eyes and try to visualize something, I don't see anything. I don't see anything when I close my eyes. I don't see anything when I dream. I have full-blown aphantasia. My imagination is different. But so like I can't even try to visualize what a boat under the water would look like because that's just not how my brain works. And if your brain doesn't work that way, that's okay. Don't let it limit you. We're painting. You can still do creative things like paint or write a story or whatever you want to do, even if you have aphantasia. John Green pretty famously has aphantasia, and he's one of the best-selling authors of teen books. YA. I had a discussion recently about YA, and the way that YA is kind of a really weird genre. Like, YA is not a genre in and of itself. YA is kind of like a subgenre of multiple genres. Like, YA contains books from pretty much all genres. So, why can't it just be, whatever the original genre is? Why does it have to be YA? Think about it. Ask yourself why. I have an answer, but I don't think YouTube or Twitter will be very happy with me if I say my answer, so think about it. Okay. Here's what I want to do with this boat. We need to mix up a little bit more of our dark gray first. I am not liking the space up there near the top of the boat. And so what we're going to do is we're going to round it out a little bit, going into that space, and then kind of draw out the point. Which means we're going to kind of change the shape of the whole boat, but like it's way too triangular for me right now. It just really is. So, kind of rolling off excess paint to make sure that we are able to get what we want to do. I'm going to draw out this first. Okay. Fairly happy with that. And then we're gonna brave move here. We're gonna come in here and round it out more. The thing that kind of stinks is that as we are doing this, it'll be a lot harder to fix the ocean around our boat than to fix our boat, because we can make the boat bigger, but if we have to try and re-blend the stuff around the boat in the ocean, it's gonna be real hard. Not impossible, just really hard. Okay, so same thing on the other side. Okay, I think I like this shape better. We might need to clean up the lines of it a little bit down the line, but the good news is this is just kind of our base shape. We are going to be going over this. I see a problem. We need to fix. This side starts lower than that side, and that is going to drive me crazy. That's better. Okay, so because this is kind of our base that we're then going to paint on top of, it's not a huge deal if you have pieces of ocean showing through, like I do right in here. It's not a huge deal if you're not perfectly happy with the boat, if your exterior lines aren't perfectly smooth. It's okay. We're going to go over it, and we're going to make stuff happen. So, I feel like I need some water. I don't have very much water left. Huh. Drink water. Hydrate. Hydration is important. You should do that too. So, what we're going to do, we're going to put in a rudder. I didn't think about that. Your boat doesn't have to have a rudder. That is too wet. If you saw what happened there, my brush was very, very wet because I had chunked it into our water. And so it was very, very wet. And so as I put it onto the canvas, it started to drip down. What I did to solve that problem is I just took my finger and I wiped it away. It was wet enough that I was able to just wipe it away like that. I did wipe up into the boat instead of down because I wanted to make sure that any pigment that was in that drip went up into the space where it could stay instead of down into the space where it would make me upset. So that's what we did. All right, so now here's the thing. We have done all of these wonderfully lovely little waves around our ocean, and we need to adjust some a little bit because here's the deal. We did them with nothing in the space, just establishing waves, establishing whatever. Now we have a big thing in the middle of our space. So what this big thing would do is it would actually create like ripples coming out around it. So we're going to make some of that happen a little bit. So if you look at like most of these pictures of a boat from in the water, you can see that there's kind of little bits of like ripples happening around it in more of like a centricular way. Now we're going to pretend I said that word right. So we're going to make that happen. We're not going to get rid of the lines that we already made. We aren't necessarily going to color match the lines that we already made, though we'll try a little bit to make sure that they're kind of in the same zone. But it's not super important that they're perfectly matched. So if you look in this kind of section over here, we had a little bit of that darker cerulean mix. That isn't just the straight up phthalo, it's the darker cerulean. So we'll mix some cerulean with some phthalo. And we are going to have our brush be more wet than we were before. So before we were using a fairly dry brush and we were going in and we were giving the waves. Now we're going to do it a little bit more wet. And the reason for that is that I want these waves to be a little bit more subtle. Just as a general whole. So I have mixed up my cerulean. I dipped my paintbrush in water. I'm going into my cerulean phthalo dark blue mix. And then I'm dipping into water again. Because I want my bristles to be wet. And I want my paint to be wet. So let me show you what it looks like when I then paint it onto my hand. You can kind of see the variation in there. It's not quite as opaque as it would normally be. Let's see if we can get you a good look. Yeah. If I leave this sitting like this long enough, that will probably drip. We're not going to have it drip on the canvas, but we don't want it to be quite as opaque as our other lines were, just because this is going around the boat and the boat is creating like new waves. So what we're going to do, we're going to start into that section that kind of matches the color on the brush. This is very wet. And we're going to have it be closer to the boat up at the top and moving further from the boat towards the bottom. You can see there's a drip there. We're going to carry that out until that drip goes away. You can also, if you want to, you can actually wet your canvas. If you're going to wet your canvas for this, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do it with a paintbrush. Oh, that drip wants to go further. Let's take it further. This drip wants to go further. Let's give it a path. I would rather create a path for these drips than have them kind of go their own way, because if they go their own way, they're just going to go straight down. We don't want these waves to just go straight down. So we are creating paths where the water can go, where our pigmented water can go. And we're keeping it very, very wet so that these are not quite as heavy lines. This spot got a little bit heavy, so we're going to come in with some water and help it out. Like we talked about when we were doing this before, these lines do not need to be perfect. Let the OCD go away for a little bit. Just play. Just let them happen. Let them cross over each other if they want to cross over. Let them do what they kind of just want to do. We're going to get a little bit more of our lighter cerulean mix going. And we're going to do the same thing. because I want kind of both colors to be happening in here. Trailing it down. This one has a pretty big drip in it. That's gonna create some fun for me. So as I notice that it's pulling towards the bottom of the brush stroke, I'm then just pulling it out and giving it a direction to go, so that it is not in control of just dropping straight down, and I am giving it a pathway to use. And we'll give it a trail coming out the back of the boat as well. We can use both mixtures, because that goes into kind of the both mixture realm as it gets further back. I think closer up, I'm probably going to stick towards using the more cerulean lighter mixture. But as we go further out, I'm definitely going to let it play with the darker mixture a little bit. I am noticing that when I'm doing this, I have a tendency to take my brush left and then right. So I can always go the opposite direction. I can take it from the bottom up. Just pay attention to any spots that might be trying to pull on you. Like there's a spot over here. It's got a nice little glob. So we're going to go in there and we're going to grab it and give it a path. This one's going to pull too, so we're going to give it a path. I'll let this fade into some of our darker cerulean mixture further down here. That one's going to pull and give it a path. That's really all we're doing, is we're giving pathways for paint to follow. That one's going to drip. Give it a path. So really and truly, most of these pathways are kind of only going to show up in the perfect light, which I kind of love. So when the light hits this painting just right, these pathways will show up. Because like I can see a lot of these pathways really nicely when I move side to side and get that kind of light from the window. And it's not just because they're wet, it's just because they show up a little bit more. So now, for our portion over here, especially in our very light section, we are going to use just cerulean. Again, if you are not able to purchase cerulean, that's okay. What I encourage you to do is use a phthalo blue color and mix it with your white. Nobody's going to know. How would they know? Seriously though, nobody's going to know. And you're allowed to do that. So if you are using the cerulean, or if you're using the phthalo as your blue color, just mix it with your white. Make a color that works for you. So I'm taking this lighter stuff down to just below where that one's dripping. Just below where our light circle is. It's also going through the light circle, and it's coming up to just above. That's going to drip. We're going to give it a path. So then, above and below that, and even a little bit coming through it if you really want to, we're going to use our phthalo cerulean mix. I'm going to stick to my lighter phthalo cerulean mix for this, just because it makes more sense to my brain. That doesn't mean you have to. Remember, your painting is yours, mine is mine. You do not have to copy me, even if you're doing a paint along. So I'm just gonna come up into the bottom of where those cerulean only waves were, and I'll come into the top of where they were and give them pathways. But I do want to make sure that I'm kind of overlapping the sections of the different colors, just because I want to make sure that it's almost like the light is hitting it in different ways. And that's why we're seeing the waves off the boat like that. All right. I'm actually really very happy with that and the way that that is working. We've got a couple of spots up here that seem like they want to start to drip a little bit, so we're just gonna make sure they have a place to go. Sip some more water. All right. So the next thing that's our plan to do is to finish up the boat. I do want to let my gray dry a little bit more before we do that. And then after that, we're going to be adding in fish, and then eventually, so we're thinking surface of the water coming down, coming towards us. That's the order we're thinking in. So we did the surface, the actual like surface where we put in the waves. We did these light blotches where it's like, yeah, it's a cloudy day. Sure, that's what we're going with. And then we put a boat on the water because that boat would be coming underneath the water a little bit. And we added the appropriate waves for that boat. So the next thing is going to be things like fish in between where the bottom of the boat would be and where our perspective is. And then yep. And then what we'll do is we're going to add things like seaweed coming up from the edges and into the painting, because those would be coming from where we are, looking like laying on the seafloor, looking up towards what's up there. So those would kind of end up being, to a certain extent, on top of any fish, because they're coming from our angle instead of from the shore, from the surface, if that makes sense. Hopefully that made sense. Sometimes I'm talking and I'm just like, I have no idea if what I'm saying is making any sense at all. But, excuse me. And that is where we're going to wrap up for today. Again, before I switch the camera back over, painting_on_wheels is my Instagram. And you can message me on there if you see something that you like and you want it, or if you want a commission of something that's not for sale. Everything that is listed on there, with the exception of micro paintings, is listed with whether or not it is for sale, but I am always open to doing commissions. Painting by Shelby Lynn is my Etsy store, and that is also the name of the YouTube channel. If you need to watch this at a later date, you can go watch it on the YouTubes. And so those are the two kind of important pieces of information to know. Not everything is listed on my Etsy store yet. Again, you can always get in contact with me on Instagram if there's something that you like or something that you want, and we can talk about it. So let's switch back around. Oh, my back. All right, switched back around. Hopefully you enjoyed being able to be on the tripod today. Hopefully that was a little bit better of an angle for you and a little bit better view. I really hope so, because it seemed like it was better to me, but I'm also the one painting and not the one watching. So if you enjoyed this stream and you were watching it live or what have you, this will be uploaded to YouTube by the end of the day, and then you can always go back and rewatch it on there if you so desire. If you decide, oh hey, I really like the way that she did that under the sea painting and I know that she uploaded all the parts, I'm gonna go watch it. You can do that. It is broken up into the appropriate days and pieces. At some point eventually I might edit or get help editing it all together so that it's all as one stream or one video instead of as however many it's been so far. I think we're up to 4 or 5. At some point we might do that. We'll see. I am not the editor person, but I know some people. But I appreciate you tuning in if you tuned in live. If you tuned in after the fact, I appreciate you doing that too. I hope that you have a great rest of your Friday and happy weekend. And I will probably see you tomorrow when we will continue to work on our Under the Sea painting and do another micro painting. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope that you are able to take the time to make something uniquely you. Enjoy it.